Hello and welcome to Pull to Open, a Doctor Who podcast where we go through the entire show in random order. My name is Chris Taylor.
And my name's Pete Paschal. And Chris and I are both writers, fans, and journalists. We've always been addicted to Doctor Who, and we occasionally write about it. But we always also have things to say about it, which is what we like to do on this podcast. And we do it here in random order.
We do like to talk. We like to talk in random order. We should really just do all the segments of the podcast in random order. Like, let's start off with the Clara Splinter, and we'll just, let the listeners figure it out. We like it timey-wimey here in Doctor Who fandom. Anyway, the timey-wiminess of our journey has been pretty wibbly-wobbly. And recently in our wibbles and wobbles, we were at, let's take it in order of the last three. We were at State of Decay, Tom Baker looking like a vampire amidst other vampires. We then went to Attack of the Cybermen, Colin Baker being mean in general, and Cybermen also being mean and converting people.
Meanness.
And then super meanie Davros entered the picture last time in Genesis of the Daleks, and created some super scary travel machines. And now we have arrived. we left Skaro, not via the TARDIS, and we have arrived in the TARDIS and on a random spaceship. We've arrived at Terminus,
which ruins our Baker to Baker to Baker street.
Yeah. We had
Davison.
Well, it's like, I don't know if you have this game where, like, Piggy in the middle, you just kind of throw a ball over someone's head, and that's basically what's been happening. The randomizer's been passing the ball back between the Bakers. Finally, Davison jumped up and caught it, and took us to one of the most forgettable Davison stories, I think. And it's like literally forgettable. It's like, sometimes Doctor Who is so bad it's good, and it sticks in your brain. This, right. I don't know if you've watched the After Party on Apple TV Plus.
I have not.
Highly recommended it. Recommend it if you haven't. It's very much like Knives Out, but like an Apple TV Plus series. It's everyone at a party and someone's killed someone, right? But
putting it on my list now.
Yeah, please do. And there's a character named Walt, and the whole joke with Walt is you don't remember. Nobody remembers him from high school. Like he's not. He keeps trying to do things to be memorable, and literally nobody can remember his name. That is my feeling about Terminus, and that is why I kept thinking throughout the week of the story that we needed to watch, and I kept thinking it was Frontios.
Like I literally, and they're both one word.
I literally just kept getting its name wrong. Like that's how sort of non-essential this is. So, but we're gonna have
the lazy Doctor Who titling is like, where is this episode again? Terminus. Yes. Oh, okay, just call it that.
Yeah, and yet,
okay, just call it that.
And yet, out of nowhere, the beginning and the end of the universe.
Right. Well, that's the thing. It's so funny. It should be super momentous. And honestly, that's like the one thing I really remembered about this story was that it explains like the Big Bang.
Yes.
But other than that, I kind of went back in, and now I don't ever have to do that again.
Yeah. The headline for this is Big Bang Theory, and then the subhead is Sarah Sutton in a slip.
Well, there's that. That's the other one, right? The other thing. But anyway, we're gonna get all of it in a bit.
Before we get to that,
we'll get back to season 20 in a second, folks. But before that, a little business to take care of, which is one, hey, we love reviews because we're a podcast. This is a podcast, and reviews are the fuel of podcasts, just like something you would jettison into a void and ignite
in order to create the universe,
an entire space-time continuum. Reviews do that for us, so please go ahead right now, just as I've subscribe to the show you talked about, Chris, while you were talking. You can do it while we're talking. You can actually review the podcast whether you pause the playback or not. Just open it up, hit that stars. The 5 stars are always good, but honestly, leave whatever you want. Leave a few words. It'd be really great. And
listen, folks, we know you love to multitask. You're a 21st century person. Everyone loves to multitask. We're giving you something to do while you do the podcast. Hell, you're probably listening to the podcast while watching Legend of the Sea Devils. I
True.
know that you can do this. You're probably watching it like for the 57th time. And simultaneously listening to the podcast. We're like the commentary on something else to activate another part of your brain. So yeah, just leave us a review. And I understand that we have new reviews. People have been listening and enjoying.
We've got a few reviews that came in the last little while. So we haven't taped in a bit. It's been about 2 weeks. We had our special episode last week with just checking out the codex and see how much good Doctor Who we've actually done. And
yes. The special episode, aka Chris worries about having watched too much good Doctor Who, which tells you a lot about my personality.
Well, most folks believe we have plenty left, but there's plenty of pull to open if you're a new fan as well. And like some of these folks who have left reviews, they've gone on binging it. So the first review is from a listener in Canada, and it just says, just finished binging. It's 5 stars. It says, it's very fun to listen to the episodes and learn about Old Who, which I've never really bothered to watch before. And I can't wait to see what the last episode will be like. Cool. I'm not quite sure what they mean by the last episode.
Last episode. Okay. I also can't wait to see what the last episode will be like. Wait. Does he mean like what was it? Was
a regeneration
survival?
Episode, maybe?
No. The Last of McCoy before it went off the air.
Oh, survival. Yeah, that was survival. Yeah.
I also can't wait to see that because I haven't seen that. So I think that's part of the enjoyment of us taking these new Who fans through Old Who. Is for me, it's like I realize I've become at heart a new Who fan. I've watched everything of the new show, and the amount, because of the lack of repeats on British television, the amount of the old show I've watched compared to you is paltry. So it's like I'm educating myself as we go through. So I think that connects with a lot of listeners who are also new to Classic Who.
It's definitely different lenses. I haven't seen a lot of these classic episodes in a while. I did watch pretty much all of them when I was in junior high and binge watched them even again with my VCR. But I got to say, the lens is different now, and we'll get into it in a few minutes. And holy cow, was it good for this one? But first, a couple more reviews. Okay, here's another one. It's from a guy named Jason. I believe it's Witte. Sorry if I'm scrambling that, Jason. It's from the USA. And it's one of my favorite Who casts. 5 stars. It's fun listening to these guys go deep dives into episodes of Doctor Who in random order. A fun mix of genuine conversation and goofiness. Yes.
Whoa.
Yes, it is exactly that.
Yes, that's what we go for. That's right at the top of our show notes here. Remember, fun conversation and goofiness.
As long as it's not goofy conversation and genuineness, occasionally we might do opposite day and do that. But hey, bullseye, my friend, bullseye.
It's all genuine. We're doing it live. All right, what's the third review?
Third review follows a little bit in the same spirit as the first one. So it's Pie Adventure. Love it. Love that handle. Pie Adventure from the USA. Great show. 5 stars. This is an amazing show. I've been listening to the older episodes and watching episodes they reviewed next before listening. And this show is the whole reason I got a BritBox subscription to watch the classic series. And it has given me a whole new appreciation for not only the classic run, but the modern one as well. Booyah! Thank you, Pie Adventure. And
wow, another BritBox. Another BritBox subscription. I think this has been mentioned before in reviews, that this is the only way you can watch Classic Who is BritBox. So we're giving BritBox free advertising. So I'm going to continue to say sort of slightly mean things about the BritBox watching experience and various problems that I've run into watching it. I did have to quit the app several times during the watching of Terminus. Just saying. Totally. But if BritBox were to sponsor the show, I'd really have only nice things to say.
I think everyone would have nice things to say. BritBox, it's a great place to see the show. Obviously, the whole classic series is there. And, they're not paying us at all, but feel free. Go ahead. Go subscribe. It's kind of a deal. All right.
Okay. Well, speaking of reviews,
prototype ad read.
we got a review for the previous episode that we were stumped by. As you may remember, we have been asking you for emoji to provide us with emoji summaries of every story in Doctor Who history and make us guess what story you're summarizing. And we will also add that into our codex, into our spreadsheet of the stories that we're visiting. So your emoji will reign immortal like the 3 Who rule from State of Decay. But there was one emoji brain teaser that had us stumped. It was, if I remember correctly, a tooth, a glass of whiskey,
right?
And what was the third thing?
A piano.
A piano. Yes, that's what confused. Like the glass of whiskey made me go to, Twice Upon a Time. The piano made me go to Missy in the Vault, and that whole season. Typical of the show and the randomizer, I went to Capaldi references.
Well, I fixated on the tooth because I was like, tooth and claw? How is this tooth and claw? It can't be tooth and claw. And it's not. So the person who left the review actually got in touch. It's a gentleman named Bob Gilby. And
hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. And his handle was subtitles 2. And okay, so apparently the tooth, whiskey tumbler, and piano are all references to, wait for it, the Gunfighters.
Oh, okay. Yes, toothache.
Yeah, do you remember this one?
I've never seen the Gunfighters, but I know it by reputation. It was for many years reputed to be the worst story in Doctor Who history.
Well, we've got a contender here for that one.
We do. We're going to match them up sooner or later. We'll do a special episode one time on what we consider the most laughable bad episodes of Doctor Who. But yeah, that is William Hartnell gets a toothache. Yes.
Yeah, gets a toothache. There's some teeth pulling, as I recall. So the tooth is a big part of that one.
And there's a piano, yes.
Well, it's the tune, right? And it's like the saloon piano tune that they have throughout. And the whiskey tumbler. I mean, it's the Old West.
I love it. I love that brain teaser. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Subtitles 2, for creating the teaser for us. Please, everyone, send in your own. See if like Bob, you can stump us. It's honestly not that hard.
And we'll add these to the codex. We haven't done it yet, but all the ones we've gotten so far, we're going to add them to the codex, and as they come in, and we'll even put in alternates if you want to do different takes on the ones we've already done. But it's a super fun thing.
Show notes, yeah. So we still have the prize. I feel like I've been falling down on asking you questions about the prize. We will send the prize to one of our first 50 reviewers. Let me see. Animal, vegetable, or mineral? I haven't asked that question yet.
I guess it's mineral.
I mean,
minerals?
I don't mean like literally what it's made of. I mean the thing that it represents.
Yeah, let's go with mineral anyway.
All right. I'm going to continue the 20 questions in future podcasts. We'll get there. Once we get to 50 reviews, you will reveal what it actually is.
Indeed.
And meanwhile, on big news on TikTok, we are well on the way to 10K. Pete, where are we at?
Oh yeah, we're like the virality continues. We've been fueled a bit by a couple of like classic monster episodes. So Attack of the Cybermen, Genesis of the Daleks, both very popular, and we had a lot of good clips from those. And we've blown past 6,000 followers. We're about 6,100 now.
Yes,
and we're still looking to get to 10K, and if we get to 10K, it's actually notoriously difficult to send prizes to anyone via TikTok. But we'll do something special. We'll do something special specifically and exclusively for the TikTok audience once we hit 10,000. So
how about we could do it? We could do a TikTok dance. Now that we're on YouTube as well, we can throw in some visual elements. So
yeah, I got some ideas. We'll have some fun. We'll do some cool edits.
All right.
Yeah. We'll probably get there pretty soon, so we better start planning because we got about 1,000 in just a couple of weeks. So by summer we might be at the 10K mark, and so keep on sharing, guys. We'd love to get more special content for y'all.
Yeah,
so
and people have been talking about Genesis of the Daleks a lot on TikTok. Yeah,
there's a lot of reverence for it. I mean, expectedly so. We obviously it's rightfully considered a classic. We talked a lot about it. People love to sort of chime in about all the theories that sort of came out of it, as well as all just the great sort of narrative structure there and all the cool things Terry Nation slipped into it. And within this, we also have our TikTok comment of the week.
Yes.
So it's from someone named Slats22, and it goes, here's how it goes. Always my doctor, my first, always. Tom Baker really broke the ice here in America. Public TV hid some of the John Pertwee eps, but I think it said ran some of the. I don't know. Not sure if that's the right. Hid some of the John Pertwee eps.
Hid them.
Baker. He hid them. Yes.
You have to go watch them in a special room.
But I wanted to get this comment out there just because I think we talk a lot about Baker and we talk a lot about the other doctors, but really, like, you can't overstate how important Tom Baker was to Doctor Who just generally, and just it being like the franchise it is today. And that appreciation really, really, I mean, it's not talked about enough within
and
New
in
Who because no one,
America, yeah, we sort of
right.
think as like, David Tennant kind of broke the mold in America, like he was the Beatles coming to America, and then Matt Smith even more so.
Tennant Smith, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was really Tom Baker was kind of a mini phenomenon here, and I didn't discover this until many years later. And it's so weird. It's so weird. Tom Baker's such an intimate part of my childhood. And I think the same as a lot of British children of a certain age. You hid behind the sofa Tom Baker episodes. It was just he was beloved. He was our Pied Piper, and to then come to America and find out that many people here had that experience and grew up with them. It was so wild. It kind of reminds me of my dad grew up in Liverpool. He was a contemporary of the Beatles. And, the Beatles were like the biggest band in Liverpool. And then to suddenly find out that, wait, what, now they're the biggest band in the world? That's how I feel about Tom Baker. Like he somehow managed to penetrate American geek culture in that costume. And like the first time you see it on The Simpsons, you understand, oh, like this is Doctor Who to Americans.
Yeah, not even just geek culture, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever I was tell people what my favorite show was, when I was like in junior high or high school, and I would say Doctor Who, and they it wasn't really a phenomenon, so people would have to sort of think about it. What is it? And it's like, well, that guy with the scarf who travels around in space, and like, oh yeah. Like that was like I've at least heard of that. Or it's been on PBS once when I was, I don't know if people flipped in those days, but they would have encountered Doctor Who in some form, and it was always the Tom Baker Doctor that you could count on. If they knew it at all, that's who they knew.
Yes, just by sheer numbers of stories, he's just most likely to be on screen.
Well, also most likely if you encountered it and for whatever reason were there more than 30 seconds. You're kind of intrigued and kind of, oh yeah, this guy's entertaining. Yeah, I'll stick around for 25 minutes.
Who wouldn't with that voice, with the eyes, with everything? Tom Baker is so eminently watchable that you just like literally anything else that he's in. I would watch the poorly regarded Hound of the Baskervilles where he played Sherlock Holmes. Just to see him in that,
or Nicholas and Alexandra.
Or the movie where he's Rasputin. Yeah, so it's great to bring more Baker appreciation. We did spend a lot of our special episode wondering if we burned through too much of the good Baker, but I don't care. I want to see the bad Baker. I want to
let's see all the Bakers.
I want to complete my Tom Baker collection. That's a big thing driving me forward in this random quest.
Nice. Well, we'll get there. Well, and thank you, Slats22, for that comment and reminding us just how important Tom Baker is to Doctor Who and the whole Who mythos.
Indeed. Speaking of the Who mythos, is expanding by one right now as we speak.
That's true.
Legend of the Sea Devils is screening today.
It's screening in about 40 minutes here,
where
I am anyway. I know that the BBC America is going to simulcast it with the British broadcast. Now, we're actually so dedicated to this podcast, guys. I want to tell you, we're actually going to miss the simulcast, which I was actually planning to do anyway because I want to watch it with my family. But I'm going to watch it a little later at the 8 p.m. rebroadcast. So that just means I got to be completely off the internet for the rest of this afternoon.
Yep. Don't even do it. We are avoiding story number 300 in the Codex as it pops into existence in order to go to story number 125.
Exactly.
As so many. Like this is the most Whovian nerd thing I think I've ever done. Is watch Terminus instead of Legend of the Sea Devils. Before focused on Terminus, talked about Terminus, because Terminus doesn't get a lot of discussion.
It doesn't, but it will get it today. Of all days, on Easter Sunday, Terminus takes center stage.
Finally.
We swear fealty to the randomizer. We don't care what's going on in the real world. The randomizer is what really is happening.
It just recently struck me again that like the whole thing about the randomizer is it kind of reduced my overall level of Doctor Who watching. Like, I'm not just thinking of random stories and going there. My filter is the random. It completely decides what I'm watching any given week. And even though my heart may sink when we go somewhere like Terminus, it's like, that's fine. It feels like we're watching it serially, even though we were doing the exact opposite. It feels like we are just watching a show that was chopped up and out of order.
The randomizer works in mysterious ways. It knows best, though.
It does. So, before we get into discussing Terminus, it's time for that part of the show.
It is, isn't
and it? I know you love this, Pete, because it is your turn. It is your turn at the helm of TLDW. And can I just say, the shame still burns deep in my bones, like radiation poisoning, like I'm a laser or Lazar or whatever they were called. We'll get into it, but I feel irredeemably poisoned. Lasers, lepers, Lazars, whatever they're called, by my inability to summarize Genesis of the Daleks in 3 minutes. It's still like, we need a good narrative arc for Pull to Open. Is my, like, this is going to cause my fear in every future TLDW.
Well, as disasters go, I might give you a run for your money, just because the way I watched this one was so disjointed. I watched like an episode and a half, like well over a week ago, and then on my iPhone, and then the rest I sort of did on BritBox last night, and I kind of forgot a bunch of things and had to sort of go back, and I was reading a plot summary like a few hours ago just to make sure I had it all together, and I kind of fell asleep doing that. Like I was just like, okay, I've given up on like trying to figure it out, and I'm just gonna try to tell you what I remember.
It's so good to hear that you were watching it, a lot of it on your iPhone, which is sort of like, that's code for I was doing something else important at the time, right? You just just prop the iPhone up there and I'll get on with chopping the vegetables, because that's exactly what I was doing. I watched it while cooking because I'm like, well, at least
something was cooking.
Sorry, something's cooking, and it's the Big Bang. And yeah, but it's one of those very eminently second screenable stories, because so much is not happening. But that should make your job easy. And here's how we do TLDW. We give 30 seconds for every episode of the classic show. This is a 4-parter, therefore you get 2 minutes to describe,
summarize Terminus. Okay,
summarize Terminus. So good luck as I pull my stopwatch out.
Getting rid of all my windows. Now just a blank desktop. Okay,
that's right. This is how we do it. The lights dim, and the studio goes quiet as we ask the contestant, Pete Michelle, are you ready?
I'm ready. Please give me a countdown.
All right. In 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, Turlough's on the TARDIS, and the Black Guardian's telling him that he still has to kill the Doctor, so he messes with the TARDIS the circuitry, and he tries to pull the space-time element out of the console, but that causes the TARDIS to break up. He doesn't fully do it, but what it does is, like, as an emergency thing, the TARDIS locks onto a space vessel, and the Doctor tells Nyssa to walk through a door that just appears in her room so that she can survive. It turns out the door goes to this ship that is transporting a bunch of sort of space lepers called Lazars to a place that's supposedly going to cure them. And they figure this out as they sort of wander this ship. So everyone, the Doctor, Tegan and Turlough, all go in at different times, and they get separated. But it turns out this ship is going to this other place called Terminus, which is the place where that's supposed to cure all these people who are have this disease. Now that on the way there, that gets hijacked, not really hijacked, but these pirates go in and they think it's a rich space vessel with stuff they could steal, but then they don't realize, oh, it's a bunch of diseased people, and they think they're all doomed, and they get to the Terminus. And so Terminus actually is this weird ass place that just happens to be in the center of the universe, and that's because eons ago that injected some fuel into a void, because it's a time traveling ship, and it blew up and caused the Big Bang, and now it's billions of years in the future, and there's all these weird slave guys who have weird bone armor or muscle armor, and they're kind of running the place, trying to cure these lepers, but then there's also this dog-like guy who sort of helps them and puts the people in this radiation chamber, which sometimes cures them and sometimes doesn't. But Nyssa figures out that it actually can work, and so she wants to stay and help them. Whereas the guys there all need hydromel, and she can also synthesize that. So she leaves to help the people on Terminus, and the Doctor goes back to the TARDIS with Turlough, who still wants to kill him.
Wow, yeah, you just about got it. You just about that. I will fully accept that.
Close.
I will fully accept everything you said there as sort of perhaps the quintessential summary, 2-minute summary of this bizarre story. There are many. There are many holes.
I
you could have fallen down.
Well, I kind of did, and I couldn't tell if I was. That was the thing about this one. Like, is this a nonsensical plot thread that goes nowhere, or is it the plot?
Yeah,
like that's kind of where you're at with Terminus. It's like it's all rabbit holes. It's all rabbit holes.
It really is. It did feel to me like a Frankenstein's monster of a plot. Lots of stuff cobbled together, and you have all the stuff in the TARDIS at the start, which we'll get to. But yeah, it did just we talked in Genesis of the Daleks about the sort of wonderful dream logic of Genesis the Dalek. There was good dream logic. Like there were things that didn't make sense, but it just we went along with them. We were hooked on the story. This is the opposite. This is like more of an average dream. This is like really bad dream logic happening all over the place. Over the place here.
And there's such a big chunk of like contorting the plot and to the stories such that let's put aside like there's too many main characters, so we need Tegan and Turlough just to kind of go off for like 2 or 3 episodes and not be part of the story, which is really like not good.
Yeah, Tegan and Turlough are basically parked in a ventilation shaft. Like they've we're just going to leave them there. This is their kennel. For the episode.
It's kind of like this really ambitious story that just doesn't really pick what it wants to do. Like, are you telling a story about the beginning of the universe, which is kind of intriguing? Are you telling more of a political or social commentary piece about medicine and disease? Are you doing more with the Turlough plot, like advancing that in some way with the Black Guardian, which is a kind of a genuinely interesting thing they did this season? It kind of wants to do all of it and fails on every single front. I mean, there's missed opportunities, meandering plots, things that make no sense, and just things that look downright silly, like those disco helmets and outfits with the bubbles with the pirates. It's just
the pirates. That was actually one of my favorite moments of Terminus, which
when they show up,
when they show up in these massive Buck Rogers helmets. It's so over the top that you're like, wow, this is going to be a pastiche of itself. But no, it can't even sort of bring itself to do that.
Like if you remember Mysterio and how they kind of made that look good in the second Spider-Man movie, even though Mysterio always looked ridiculous. Imagine Mysterio just done completely wrong and just on the lowest budget. I mean, those things don't even look like helmets. They look like bubbles. They look like balloons.
They do. And apparently one of them kept misting up. Like it just, they couldn't get any usable shots because Kari's helmet, the character Kari, Liza Goddard was just steaming up the whole giant Buck Rogers helmet the whole time.
Yeah,
and they weren't even supposed to be worn. Like there was miscommunication with the costumes. There was miscommunication with the costumes of the Vermeer. Am I getting it right? The slave workers on board. Like they didn't, the guy designing them didn't know they were supposed to be designed for combat. So these sort of rattling bone things, which actually look quite good. I thought, when they're just standing still, they kind of look like, they should be in a production of Dune.
Right. Yeah. Definitely Dune vibes there.
It doesn't sort of get to the sense that they are slaves for a corporation, but hey, but here's the thing. So, Terminus was kind of famously affected by industrial action. Like there was an electricians' union strike. Like they barely had any time to film it. Peter Davison was just mortified at like how bad some of the scenes were because they were just rushing through stuff and not doing enough takes.
Right, mistakes were made.
Mistakes were made. So that's the reason why the other thing this reminds me of, and another recommendation I'm going to give you of something to watch on streaming. It's called the Goes Wrong Show. and you can watch it on Amazon Prime. It is hilarious. It actually started as a West End show in London. And you just go to the Goes Wrong show. And it's about a group of actors who are sort of trying earnestly to put on a genuine performance in a haunted house or whatever, but like everything just keeps going wrong. The scenery falls apart. They forget their lines. They say their lines at the wrong time. It's now
wow.
much
There's
production.
2 seasons of this thing. I just Googled it.
Yes,
Nice.
yeah, and it's so good. Like there's some are better than others, obviously, but there's one episode where everything ends up at 90 degrees, or like they built the set too small, so the actors have to squeeze into. Oh, just so good. And when they hit it. But that kind of was the vibes I got here. Like
right.
the fight scenes are bad. Peter Davison does his best. He's a canny stage fighter, but I'm sure he was upset that he didn't get more opportunities to make the fights look more realistic.
Yeah, I say Terminus. It's funny because I almost have fond memories of it. Again, to your point earlier, it is forgettable, and I don't think about Terminus much. But recall that my first episode of Doctor Who was Modern Undead, and it drew me in. So this was really the second story I saw. So I was so willing to go with so much of this, right? Like, and the idea that in the second story I saw, they're actually explaining the Big Bang. I thought, like, as a kid who had just kind of been learning about the Big Bang at the time, I think it was about 11 or 12. Like, it's like, wow, this is cool, and it's telling a fun story around this. Plus, there's the whole thing with Turlough being the bad companion, which I was really into.
Yep.
And various other things. Like there's a few moments of peril that don't really make sense in hindsight, but like when the Lazars all come out of the prisons that they're in the transport ship, and that's kind of a scary moment, and
it is, and it's so.
But it's funny. Like I remember sort of thinking when the randomizer took us here and I heard about it, it's like, oh, Terminus, that'll be fun. Then I come back, watch it. Holy crap! Like there was just so much stuff that just makes no sense, and people. I got a strong sense of people kind of going through the motions of a character archetype rather than actually doing what they're doing. Like for example, like who's the guy who's one of the Veneer who has the most lines?
Is it Valgard?
Valgard. Yes. He kind of like, I think the cliffhanger to episode 2, I think it is. He's like killing the doctor. He's
trying to strangle the doctor. Yeah.
But like, why? Like, what are you doing? Why are you murdering a bunch of people? Like, I is that who you are? Like, are you just doing that to be the bad guy we're supposed to not trust, even
just
though
in time
you're not
the end of the
fleshed out
episode?
at all? Right? Like, it's like. What is even going on here? Like no one's motivation seems clear. The story, what it's trying to say, doesn't seem clear. Like what the Garm? We could get to it, but it's like the Garm is like, actually I don't mind the look, like a dog head with the eyes or whatever. That was fine, but he just seemed like he just walks in this robot way, and it's just such a colorless thing. He's just so straightforward. He's so clinical. I mean, kind of appropriately in some ways, but it's not even. All you remember is the dog head.
He was supposed to be in the shadows. That was the writer's intent, and he was horrified to see it actually realized on screen. So, definitely a lot of miscommunication going on between the production crew behind the scenes that made this almost hilariously unintentionally bad. But on paper, there are so many interesting elements, and I want to start with the TARDIS because that is where the show starts. And for the whole of the first episode, you get delicious TARDIS scenes, which is I always find enjoyable when we actually see the crew's rooms.
I gotta say, JNT was really good at this in terms of making the TARDIS not just a plot device, but also fleshing out like what is life on board the TARDIS like.
Yeah,
and you definitely get a sense of that here.
It's the only era where we see everyone's rooms, right? And in this one, Turlough is for some reason assigned Adric's room.
Yeah.
Like, this is an almost infinite ship with an infinite number of rooms, right? Why do you just get? Why not just have, a room devoted to all of your companions, Doctor? Just keep their room.
Well, presumably it would be close to the console room, right? Like this just is justified because it's like, okay, like an Adric's probably been there the longest. So it's kind of two things. One, that there's probably a pragmatic side to it. But the other one I actually like is that the Doctor really kind of wants to move on. Like he doesn't like, and it's not because he's dealt with it, right? Like he hasn't probably,
Yeah.
and I think there's probably evidence as we go through our journey that he never really properly deals with Adric.
Yeah.
But this is him kind of like, I just don't want to. I just want to move on. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. I don't want to think about my emotions. So I like that angle better, and I wish it was a little more explicit and fleshed out. But I have this
Yeah.
weird memory, and I got to throw this out there
Mm-hmm.
because I sort of just for the fans, anyone listening, am I misremembering this? Maybe it was in a different episode where the Doctor is talking to Tegan and Nyssa, and they're like, "Okay, so well, what do we do with Adric?" And the Doctor actually tells them, "Let's give him Adric's room." And
With Turlough, yeah.
yeah, and
Does that maybe
the
happen at the end of Mordred Undead? I don't know. No.
I don't know because like I remember he shakes hands with Turlough at the end of Mordred Undead,
Mm.
and it's like, "I think you've already joined us," and I don't know. Maybe I could be completely misremembering. I might have been. I was so obsessed with Doctor Who at the time. I
Yeah.
might have made up a scene in my head where
Headcanon
this
from the
happened,
80s.
but
Yeah.
maybe it's a deleted scene. I don't have the DVD of this one, so maybe it's on there. But I sort of vaguely remember him doing that. Like, just we need to
Yeah.
do this.
So I did see this at the time. I did see Terminus at the time, and I, was wondering why it hadn't stuck in my memory. I mean, the answer is kind of obvious on rewatching it, but bits of it did, and it reminded me that in those days you didn't sort of necessarily feel that Doctor Who was discrete stories, right? It was,
Hmm.
and especially in this era, it gets kind of very soap opera-y.
Yeah,
And
totally.
you could say that's the problem with Terminus is it's too soap opera-y that we're sort of focusing on everyone's anguish without really exploring it.
Hmm.
It's the worst of the soap opera and the worst of the space opera worlds. Um, but yeah, you just sort of kind of saw all of Doctor Who as a continuum in the JNT era, and this part of it, especially Davis's, especially like it very much followed on with Turlough and the Black Guardian.
Yeah,
Um,
it very clearly immediately follows
hmm,
Modern Undead because Turlough's just getting his room.
mm-hmm.
He's just in, and like obviously this is such a tight trilogy because Turlough is only bad for a very limited time. In that he is like, I suppose you could shoehorn maybe an episode between Terminus and Enlightenment, but that would be
Yeah.
hard because at the very end of this one, the Black Guardian yells out, "You have one last chance to kill the
Yeah.
Doctor." Basically, this is it,
I
kid.
know. I know I've given you 10 last chances up until now, but this really is. You must kill the Doctor.
And I remember even as a kid seeing that cliffhanger. It's not even cliffhanger because it does
Mm,
enlightenment follows, but I remember thinking it was like, oh, is there an episode
mm,
5?
mm.
Like
Yeah.
just
He's
it's just such a weird way to end the story.
I
Um,
think that happens a lot in season 20, right?
mm,
But yeah, the Black Guardian, the Davison Black Guardian trilogy is mercifully only a trilogy because there are only so many times Mark Strickson can say, "But I don't know what you want me to do,"
yeah, yeah, and it's
or
kind of
some
like,
variation on that.
oh, this is the one episode too, I would say, that gets me to question the most. Like, why don't you just do it yourself, man? I mean, you have the crystal thing, which apparently you can will to kind of sort of explode and
Yeah,
render Turlo unconscious, which, like, well, I mean, I get there's some kind of rules here, but I don't know what they are because you seem very powerful, but yet
yeah,
you can't do this thing to kill the Doctor, even though, and you can't even do things. You need this agent to do things like remove the space time element from the TARDIS or whatever he's doing.
yeah,
So and you're just kind of like, well, why is what Turlo says there at the end, towards the end, like not good enough? Where he's like, he's trapped on Terminus. Like we could at least do something, like we take the TARDIS away from him. I mean, I get it. He's the Doctor. He'll probably find a way out of it. But you're really
Well,
there just kind of thinking like, what are the rules here? Because I don't know what you're doing here, buddy. Like, yeah.
yeah. First of all, the Black Guardian again doesn't really seem to have heard of regeneration, which is
Fair.
kind of weird. Like he's seeing the Doctor has regenerated, and he's just like, "No, we must kill him." He's so two-dimensional, and it's such a waste of Valentine Dial. But yeah, definitely talk about moments that like stick in your head as a kid. Like I was scared of the Black Guardian. I
Mm,
found him a little bit creepy as a kid. And now you're looking at the scenes where he's like on the TARDIS monitor, and he's just sort of a guy who's been sat in a chair with a bird on his head.
right.
Uh, and just the lazy way that they shot that, where he's not even looking directly at the screen.
He's not even IRL in this at all, right? Like he's never actually in a scene with Mark Strickson. He's just on the screen. Yeah.
If he could appear poof in front of him, part of magic, and walk around the TARDIS threateningly as an apparition, I think that would be great. That would have been a fantastic use of the character,
right? But which he kind of does in the next one, as I recall. I think in Enlightenment, they finally get him. Well, he was in Modern Undead as well. But yeah, I think it's just so one dimensional. And honestly, if they're just going to have Turlough run around in ducts anyway, I mean, I would have almost preferred that Tegan and Turlough are just asleep or something, well,
the ironic thing is that the danger which comes way too late in Terminus, it just sort of randomly appears the end of the third episode, right, is the potential destruction of the universe as the cliffhanger. Suddenly the stakes have been raised the entire universe, and they've been raised because Turlough, under the guidance of the Black Guardian trying to find his way back into the TARDIS, accidentally pulls a thing or hits a switch or a lever or something. I can't even remember what he does. But that is what starts the procedure of dumping the fuel that's going to destroy the universe. So the Black Guardian, who wants chaos in the universe and is somehow kind of expressing this through his desire to kill the Doctor, has accidentally, through his, blithering, blundering charge here, set in motion the destruction of the universe. Now, is this what the Black Guardian wants?
Well,
would he be happy with this outcome? Is this the you're only supposed to make the bloody doors blow off, from the Italian job? You're only supposed to kill the Doctor. You've got to kill the entire bloody universe, Turlough.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, first of all, let's pick that apart a bit, because even though we're kind of fast forwarding to what if the evil plot had succeeded, I think we got to go with this, because one,
we got to get that.
It makes no physical sense. At this point, Turlough is still on the other ship, the transport ship. He's not on Terminus. So why would anything he does to the doors or whatever he's doing there affect Terminus at all? I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense.
Dream logic.
And then it's this is as we have our regular feature, what if the evil plot had succeeded? The only evil plot I see here is Turlough's and the Black Guardians, right? There's arguable stuff about Terminus Incorporated, and we'll get to that, but the evil plot that, he wants to kill the Doctor by any means necessary, the Black Guardian, through Turlough. But the thing is, if that succeeds, to your point, the Terminus's engines would detonate, causing the destruction of the universe. It's oh, okay, well, wait a second. Maybe, I actually would have loved to see, again, so many missed opportunities. If the Black Guardian had said, oh, actually, wait a second. No, go help the Doctor. Go. You did too much, dude. No. We can't
bring it back.
Blow up.
Go find the calm.
If they suddenly just realize they're strange bedfellows and they just have to start working together, the Doctor and the Black Guardian, that might have been a really cool ending to this.
Plot twist.
Yeah. But as it is, it's just the Black Guardian is just no, kill, do this thing, etc. And you kind of dude, it's getting repetitive, and kind of why? Why are you even doing that?
And part of what's hidden here, to get back to the TARDIS and maybe close the loop on the TARDIS stuff in this episode. This is so Turlough gets into the heart of the TARDIS, which we don't see again until Bad Wolf Parting of the Ways, right?
Right. Apparently.
got
a little bit of makeover since then. So
huge, So it's got a lot more light now.
Black Guardian does say you're touching the heart of the TARDIS, and that's the exact terminology they use in
the heart of the TARDIS is exposed, and the TARDIS basically starts to fall apart. That's why the adventure happens. The Doctor forces Nyssa to go through this door because it's better than the whatever the thing is that's in her room, that's
dimensional instability or something.
Yeah. So actually the TARDIS is starting to fall apart. This is a hugely fascinating concept. And then it's supposed to lock on to the nearest space vessel. Okay. Sure. We've never heard that mentioned before. Fine. I'll go with it.
Chris.
Never had to work before. Maybe the Doctor.
I like that bit. You can. I completely give Doctor Who writers and producers license to make up new TARDIS things and just say it either never worked or whatever. I just installed it. It doesn't really matter. Snap your fingers, door opens, what else? Okay, maybe not that one.
Terminus is one of those Doctor Who trivia questions. I think it's the only show, at least in Classic Who, where you see the interior of the TARDIS but not the exterior. Right?
Yeah.
I guess apart from the Hartnell bottle episode or whatever that was.
Unless you're thinking that the chameleon circuit's actually working, which I think is a theory on
Well,
this.
yes, that is the theory on this, that when we see the door on the other end, which has got that, what I cannot help but think of as the Grateful Dead logo. They're basically...
Not the only one.
The scary thing about the first episode, for most of the first episode, is that they are being followed by the Grateful Dead logo. Oh no, a bunch of hippies! And then the
well, that's why the
Lazars
doctor wants her to go through the door, right? Hey,
like,
you'll never get another chance to hear
exactly
the dead.
It's Jerry's last concert, right that way.
You go through, Nyssa.
Yes.
Get me some autographs and take my... my 8-track.
Get a recording. See which version of Friend of the Devil they do this time. It's so weird, but yes, it's literally the chameleon circuit functioning as it's supposed to on the other end of
I guess, but that's not
TARDIS.
really explicit. Like, I found it really confusing that the door was going between like the hallway and the Deadhead logo. And you're just like, well, wait a minute. Wouldn't it be more clear if you saw roundels?
Yes.
Toggling between that. Then it's like, oh, that's the TARDIS, right? So I found it like that was just a weird choice without spelling it out. If again, I think this is mostly headcanon. If you think, oh, it is the chameleon circuit, then okay, it kind of makes sense. But other than that, I'm just like, I don't know, man.
It does. There are a few moments of Terminus that are so bad they're good, and I think one of them is the Doctor's most heroic action. Throwing a chair to jam the door open. Throws this like super cheap 1980s plastic chair, jams the door, and that saves the day, and he can go after Nyssa.
I guess, but then the door closes later, so then that doesn't that render that a little meaningless?
It's not clear exactly what the rules are, and whether he can just stand in front of it and click his fingers. Maybe it's a finger click situation. Like River installed the finger clicking device throughout all of space and time, just so the Doctor could get out of situations like this when he's on Terminus.
I mean, speaking of plot holes,
it's all we're going to be discussing.
So
yes.
I'm just going to rapid fire through. I put a list of questions that why doesn't this work? And honestly, I'm picking at it. I admit I'm being kind of a jerk here, but I'm also I'm genuinely asking, and I would love to. If you stop and maybe on a couple of them and maybe these do actually make sense, because I do like explaining them away. And if we want to use a Claire Splinter, that's our get out of jail free card. So okay.
she's all over the place here, I'm sure.
So Terminus Incorporated is what operates this thing.
Yes.
And okay.
This thing is a healthcare facility, so far as we understand, right?
What is the business model here?
What does the brochure say?
I'm really wondering, because it's okay, so this again I think could have been a really good social commentary on possibly private healthcare, right? If they had actually gone that way, I think this could have actually been really strong, because there's it's clear there's a corporation running this, and they're doing a horrible job by not just using a slave workforce, but not even researching and improving upon their treatment, which would help you market this place. Because it sounds like the marketing's really bad, because Olvir thinks everyone's going to die, and it doesn't work at all. So they got some work to do there. So
Olvir the space pirate. Yeah, so basically the brochure for Terminus would say, here's a healthcare facility for your leprosy, your space leprosy, and here we have our friendly Garm, who's going to blast you.
It's on the cover of the brochure, by the way.
Yeah, he's on the cover, the big staring red eyes, like friendly dog vibes. Our Garm, who has no free will, and he has no free will, but he's at the helm of this radiation procedure. He's going to be your surgeon. And he may kill. There'll be tiny fine print at the bottom, death occurs in over 90% of radiation cases.
Well, and remember, if anyone
accepts no responsibility.
If anyone tries to inhibit him with a laser and try to shoot him in the middle of your procedure, he's completely impervious. So don't worry about that. It's like, did a lot of laser firefights happen in your hospital facility? Does that happen?
Yes.
Why would you put that in the brochure? I don't know.
Yeah, and please come to visit Terminus. We've placed it at the center of the universe because we're cheap. And we're basically building it on board a structure that's been there before, that may be left over from a previous universe. So we saw that, we boarded up, turn this into a healthcare facility.
The average travel time will be the same for everyone in the universe. That's the idea. No favoritism whatsoever.
Yes. Okay, so is it time to deal with the center of the universe and the Big Bang? I think it is.
Let's skip ahead. Let's do it. Even though I've got a lot more of these plot points. They're kind of all about Terminus Incorporated being silly and bad marketing.
Please, let's go ahead. But, if there's anything more to say about Terminus Inc.
Alvear is like, we're all going to die. Why does he think they're all doomed? Like, if anyone, basically, the cure for Lazars disease sometimes works. We know this, right? So wouldn't that be known? Wouldn't Terminus Incorporated, you'd want to advertise that? And is this why the Lazars are coming in the first place? So
how are they paying exactly? They don't seem flush with cash.
Yeah, totally. It's like, but they do say it's sort of from a rich sector, so it is like this thing, I guess, in rich cultures in the universe at this point, that you have these leper colonies, which I could go with. It's fine. But how would Lazars disease, let's talk about Lazars disease now.
Let's talk about that, because it is, we expect parts of Doctor Who to not age well. We talked about that, the talents of Wang Chang, and, obviously the casual racism of some areas of 70s Doctor Who. This is so bad and aged so badly. The treatment of what is basically space leprosy here,
right?
It's they are treated even by the Doctor in that first episode, the first cliffhanger with the threat. They're treated by even the Doctor as sort of unclean, right? Yeah. Which is very old school, incorrect version of leprosy and what it does to you. They are not allowed a voice in this script, not until Nyssa becomes one of them.
Right, she's in the prison with them or something. One of those cells in episode 3.
Yeah, Nyssa basically becomes the white savior of the lepers by becoming one of them. Pretty much, increasingly white as she loses more of her clothes. Even Mark Strickson, Turlough, at the time apparently objected to the. He said that this plot was sick. And I don't think he meant this plot was sick, dude. I think he meant it in the British sense of that was sick. It was just sick. I don't think Peter Davison was happy with it either. It was kind of the last time you could even get away with this presentation of a very misunderstood disease.
Yeah, very much. And it doesn't even follow its own rules, I'll say, because there's a bit where the Doctor says don't touch them, and that implies that it's transmitted through touch. So then how does Nyssa get it? Because I don't think she's touched, and Tegan is. Tegan's grabbed through the door, and not only
rather groped. Yes,
she's groped all over, and the Turlough even grabs one of the hands to free her. So wouldn't they be infected if it is spread by touch?
Yes.
So how come that's never talked about or dealt with? And at the same time, how could this even develop into some kind of intergalactic problem?
Yeah.
It's okay, pretty straightforward. You quarantine these people and, do your best to help them. And again, why is it only Terminus is able to, it's just radiation, right? You're basically doing this very, broad spectrum radiotherapy. Unless there's something really special about the radiation in Terminus, which there could be, but they don't really say much about that.
Yeah.
They don't really, they just sort of go, they just put him in this engine room and hope for the best.
It requires special Big Bang radiation.
Yeah. Why do you got to go into an intergalactic cruiser to go to this one spot? Because I guess, again, the marketing for this place must be amazing, except it didn't reach Alvear. So,
first of all, we will dress you in sackcloth for the full experience. Maybe it's actually a vacation for like super rich people, and they're just cosplaying lepers. Like we're gonna, we're gonna treat you like dirt. This is gonna be the only experience you've never had as the wealthy of the universe. Like we're gonna pretend you have this disease. Everyone's gonna be told not to touch you, and you'll be completely silent the whole time. No one will learn your stories. And yes, and at the end of the day, you'll get free healthcare because some random scientist from Traken will decide to come along and improve our facilities.
Don't forget, you get to scratch a big dog behind the ears, and it's good, such a satisfying thing. Oh,
it really is.
Big red eyes looking up at you, or down at you, rather. Thank you so much. But yeah, none of this makes sense at all. But again, like I would have loved to see, if you talk about the guards. Oh well, let's talk about the guards and their hydromel, right? Like it's never really talked about what hydromel is. So
so they're addicted to hydromel. They tell us they need it for some reason. We don't know why.
Is it an actual addiction, or is it a physical need? Because if it feels like it's a physical need, because Nyssa at the end says she'll actually synthesize some for something, some replacement. Whereas, like, well, if it's just like a narcotic or something, wouldn't you want to sort of wean them off it and figure that out? Like, I don't know. It's just
visually, hydromel is very cool because it comes in, like if you're going to get
colored water.
It really does. If you're going to get addicted to any like future space drug, make it one where you have these colorful, weird, like glow stick things. A glow stick that you basically insert into your chest. That seems like a cool space drug, and I wish they'd explored hydromel. So I'm not so sure about the name. I think that needs a little work.
Yeah,
hydromel. Yeah,
well,
hydromel.
It's like water honey.
It's like when after Bonnie Langford's been in the shower, hydromel. I don't know. Like, what is this?
That's when Mel goes to the pool in Paradise Tower.
There we go, hydromel. But yeah, some explanation of that would be cool. Apparently, Nyssa can synthesize it and improve on it. So basically, Nyssa ends her journey in the TARDIS by becoming Walter White. She's just like
flyer.
She's cooking up. She's cooking up blue hydromel on Terminus for all the guards.
Man, I just seen the line with her talking to Volgar or something. Like, you want to cook?
Yeah, let's cook. And it is weird. I'd totally forgotten that Nyssa leaves at the end of this episode. And I was like, oh, when it finally happened, I'm like, oh, good, something to make this worth it.
At least she got out of here, So good on you. Although she has to stay in Terminus, which sounds like nothing I would ever want any companion would wish that any companion or even any monster. But that's very notable for Sarah Sutton leaving. Apparently, it wasn't her idea. They just wrote her out of the show. Not really sure why. I assume it's because of the crowded TARDIS. This is also the last episode to feature like 4 people on board the TARDIS until the Whittaker era.
Well, as full companions, I mean, you have River, Amy, and Rory at various points, and it's arguable that she's a companion. She's really beyond companion, is River.
Well, and also Amy and Rory are kind of almost the same person.
Yeah, they're a unit. They come as a pair. Yeah, so it definitely was a crowded TARDIS, and it's interesting that Davison really, again, Davison, you made the argument he's in many ways one of the most poorly served doctors in terms of like his level of ambition for what he wanted his doctor to be, and the fact that he was handed scripts like this, and he missed Sarah Sutton. He thought that Nyssa was his best companion. And they actually not ad lib, but they kind of just made up the scene. It was supposed to be a handshake. Instead, the Doctor gets a kiss on the cheek.
Yeah, which is nice. And I gotta say, I do disagree with Peter Davison that Nyssa was his best companion. I think she serves the companion role probably the most well in terms of the straightforwardness of it. That she's there to kind of help the Doctor and help, be that sounding board. And because she's more of an equal scientifically, that becomes probably even a little better, and there's more of a flow to it with Nyssa. But I do like I prefer Tegan, honestly, just because I want a little bit of conflict in the TARDIS. I want someone who's keeping the Doctor on his toes, and I think you see elements of that in the better companions in New Who, like Donna and Bill in particular. I think are great foils for the Doctor, simply because they do sort of question a lot of what's going on and clearly have their own ideas of what things should be, which sometimes conflict with his. So I'm more of a fan of Tegan in this era, and I think there's a reason why she's thought of as the ultimate Davidson companion, not just because she was in almost all of his stories, but because I think she really works well with the Doctor. So
we needed it's not a great story for Tegan. We needed more mouth from the mouth on legs. It is sweet that they when Nyssa embraces Tegan, they say goodbye. There are tears in her eyes, and again that was genuine. That was Sarah Sutton just spontaneously bursting into tears, having to leave the TARDIS team.
Luckily, not the last we heard from Sarah Sutton. She's joined a lot of audios. I haven't listened to them all, but I did listen to the Mutant Phase, which is one of the earlier adventures, which has Nyssa and the Doctor meet the Daleks. So that's I would recommend.
Nice.
But they continue her journey later when I think at some point she's a much older version of Nyssa, but she resumes some journeys with the Doctor later in some other audio adventures.
And doesn't she end up in E-space?
I'm actually not sure.
Apparently that is the, I don't want to say it's the end of Nyssa's story, but apparently that is the big thing, that she and the Doctor, and I guess the rest of the TARDIS team, visit E-space again, which is interesting, given the randomizer recently took us to the E-space story, State of Decay.
Although Nyssa never went to E-space, she just heard about it from Adric. So
but she actually gets to go there in the audio, so it's interesting. But she also, before we take our leave of Nyssa, to look after the Lazars disease sufferers for the rest of the time, as far as the show is concerned, let's talk about this fact that she did deliberately shed clothing throughout this episode, as a thank you to the male fans,
well, come on, did she really though?
This is what she has said since, that she got the notes of complaint from her earlier costume, where she was very Traken-esque and bundled up. Yes, that's classic Nyssa. Which actually, classic Nyssa, classy Nyssa. A very classy outfit. Enjoyed that, and now here she is, like going full girls on film. It is interesting. I was reminded of what JNT apparently said about Nicola Bryant in Attack of the Cybermen, which we went to recently, that they had to, tape her chest down, basically, because the nipples were obscene. There's a very similar situation here. There's little left to the imagination. There's a scene where she is lying on the floor that you just almost want to, like, turn away from the screen, hold up a blanket, allow her to change. Like, you know what I mean? It does get distracting a little from the story.
Oh, the thing is,
if it was her choice, what the hell?
Well, I remember, like, she takes off her skirt and she's just in a slip, and I feel like, how does that help? Like, to some, I guess maybe your upper legs are slightly less warm now, like, because apparently the characters, and I would say believably, getting feverish, right? And so it's like she just wants to kind of strip down to the bare minimum, so to speak. Okay, fair enough. But I also feel like you under your skirt is another skirt. like again, I'm not expressing this as like I want to see more skin. I'm just like, if that's your goal from a pragmatic standpoint, I mean, you probably should start shedding more layers. So, and again, I think you couldn't do it in 1983 or 82, whenever this was, in doing it in sort of in a modern way. You could do it. You could play it so that it's almost done for laughs, and like, someone particularly who isn't a human just is like, doesn't see any shame or whatever in going naked or borderline naked. That could be done in a sort of believable, funny way that also, perhaps coincidentally, perhaps not, also pleases the male fans. Again, I depends on what your level of tolerance is for gratuitousness like that. Here,
Yeah.
I just kind of don't see, like, maybe I just, even at the time, maybe still exposed to too much American TV, where it was just commonplace. You'd see girls in bikinis just any night of the week randomly, whether you were watching The Love Boat or 90210 or whatever. Like, I never
Yeah.
really thought much of it.
It's definitely an 80s time capsule in a lot of ways, and I think also of the space pirates, Kara and Olvia, their costumes, like they look like they've just wandered out of a Duran Duran video as well.
Yeah.
They just, once they take those stupid giant helmets off, they're Buck Rogers meets Xanadu. She's got a very Olivia Newton-John look, and he's definitely ready to join, like, Haircut 100 or a Flock of Seagulls or one of those neuromantic bands.
I feel like Nyssa in this episode, I get some subtle, like, attraction between her and Olvir. And I kind of wish they'd played that up as more of a reason that
Yeah.
she stayed, because I don't really
Yeah.
believe someone like Nyssa, who is fairly innocent. I mean, let's be real here. I mean, would like to. I get her scientific curiosity about hydromel and Terminus and Lazar's disease. All that makes sense, but Terminus looks like a rough place.
It does.
Even now that they've sort of led this revolution, and now they're going to reboot it. Like, I mean, Nyssa in a place like that. I mean, I feel like the Doctor is almost a little irresponsible, like letting her go. Like, Nyssa, come on, this is a rough place. Like, this guy just tried to strangle me. These people are, you can't do this. Like, this is, you're not ready for this. Like, you need some help. But if Olvir's there to be her, her companion and love interest, then maybe that's a little more believable and better for her. But they never really fully explore that.
You could do a lot worse than Olvir. He's a looker, and he's kind of he wants to be an action hero. Apparently,
master
he
of
used
disguise.
to be. Yes, he does lots of sneaking around corners. He did a lot of us. Can I just throw in a random, one of my favorite random facts about Terminus?
Activate your personal randomizer.
The voice of the Tannoy that you hear over the Tannoy. By the way, they weren't allowed to use the word Tannoy. It was described in the cast notes as Tannoy voice, and they got an angry letter from Tannoy Limited telling them to cease and desist using
Tannoy
their
folks.
name.
They're everywhere.
But the voice of the Tannoy is Martin Muncaster, and Martin Muncaster is famous because if you've ever been to London, if you've been on the tube, you will know the words "Mind the Gap." He is that voice. He's the voice of Mind the Gap, and here he is on Terminus, doing his best sort of voice from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy impression.
Nice.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, I think he's obviously done voice work, because I think I recognize him from Red Dwarf as well, where there was the one of the food dispensers, I think, where he would keep saying "enjoy your meal." It just ding 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 on my head when I heard it again this time. Oh man, because I hadn't watched this since before, probably Red Dwarf was even on the air, and so yeah, he's definitely got that sort of, his pitch is just, kind of agreeable, but kind of quick. And, you definitely, he's got a voice that makes you want to pay attention, which is exactly what,
exactly
makes it perfect.
It feels very official.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just in general, a lot of half-assed things, a lot of missed opportunities, possibly the worst scientific description in Doctor Who of an event like the Big Bang. Worst, least sciencey moment, barring Kill the Moon. I would say
probably, but you know what? I think on this one, I remember being intrigued by it, and I'll still buy it. The way they explain it. So what they say is that this ship is from some ancient race, presumably capable of time travel, which again, completely glossed over in that, like, well, who built it, or what if they're doing time travel stuff and make huge ships? Wouldn't that kind of put them on par with the Time Lords? I mean, I don't know. So
they're supposed to. There's a giant pilot in the control room throughout this that we're never sort of like, we barely even. But he's supposed to be a giant, and I guess he's supposed to still be alive. He's just living in slow time or something.
Was that what is it? I don't know. I always got the impression he was dead, but like I kind of what the vibe I got there was from Alien. Right, where you find the pilot, there's a big pilot in a big chair, and there's something ancient here, and I feel like it was kind of ripping him off that. And it doesn't set out to answer that question. Maybe Doctor Who never should. But anyway, I do like the idea that the universe started is essentially a paradox, that something from the future traveled back, ejected something, whether it doesn't really honestly matter what it is, whether it's something exploding or not. I think if something ends up in a void and it's the only thing in existence, that becomes the universe, right? Like that kind of makes sense to me on a weird level. Like, you know, you go back for enough, there's nothing, and then you create something just by virtue of being there. Very cool. What doesn't make sense to me is now that it's billions of years in the future, you could now destroy the universe with a similar act. I don't think it works the same way without the void, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So
you can't just undo a thing with the same amount of fuel that you use to create a thing. It's bizarre. Something else that's bizarre and unsciency is that you get maps of the known universe that apparently everyone can just instantly recognize. I mean, who doesn't know the known? But
it's the exact center of the known universe, not the entire
universe.
Known,
the fact that they throw in known universe, that kind of makes your sciencey head explode, because it's like the exact center of the quote unquote known universe is not the exact center of exactly. It's so pre-Copernican the way that they're thinking about this. It's just the center and the universe is flat.
Yeah,
or I guess I guess they've got the universe rounded a little bit because it's on an old-fashioned CRT monitor.
Well, you can definitely tell this is like cosmology from like 40, 50 years ago, right? Where it's the Big Bang, it blew up. I mean, I remember learning in junior high school about the difference between the Big Bang theory and the steady state theory, and was there going to be a big crunch? And cosmology and telescopes, you know, with the Hubble Space Telescope, has gotten way more advanced, and it kind of looks real. This part has the science here has not aged well.
Yes.
Because now we have much better understanding of you know, dark matter and all dark energy and these other things,
and the curvature of space. The fact that you essentially just couldn't represent it,
right? And whether the debate on whether, like, is the universe infinite or not, because it might be depending on, you know, your perspective on that. My knowledge here might be a little outdated because this is mostly based on, you know, reading Brian Greene 10 or 15 years ago. So. But there's been a lot of talk since, and about what, you know, the nature of the universe is, and it's really evolved. And here it just sounds very, very linear, which is just it's too bad, you know.
Do you remind me with Pandorica opens Big Bang in New Who? I know that, you know, the twisty turny plot of that kind of loses its essential heart for me. I know that the TARDIS reappears by recreating the universe in that. Is the Big Bang actually involved in the Big Bang?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's been a while.
Like, does it wipe over this terrible version of creation?
Sure.
Yeah, let's just say that it does.
I mean, that's the great thing about Pandorica Opens Big Bang, is that you could use it to explain away any sort of timeline shifts or plot holes.
Yeah, it's Moffat literally rebooting the entire universe. So the entire universe, let's just say, is never actually created by a fuel dump from a time-traveling void ship.
Well, Doctor Who didn't stop Doctor Who from doing it even before that. So the other explanations for the beginning of the universe, there was actually, you know, they actually talk about it in Castrovalva, the previous season, but they never really explained the nature of it. So you could argue, when they talk about the hydrogen inrush or whatever they say in Castrovalva, they're actually like, the thing that causes it is Terminus. So fair enough. But then they actually talk about it apparently in Slipback, which was an audio adventure on the radio, I believe. and I actually never listened to it, but it says basically there was a ship called the Vipod Moor that caused the Big Bang. It
Okay.
exploded and was basically the Big Bang. Fair enough. That seems a little incompatible with the Terminus thing. I guess you could really stretch it and say like either the Vipod Moor was the original name of Terminus, because Terminus is also like the name of this corporation, which came first, right? The
Right.
corporation or the ship, or that the ship explodes on the fuel tank that Terminus ejects. Hell of a
maybe
maybe
it took two ships, so maybe actually there's dozens of ships accidentally tumbling back to the beginning of the time. They all explode. That's actually what created the Big Bang.
This universe is so vast. It took two ships exploding
to
create.
Yeah, let's just pile more on. Let's just like have have a season of New Who where the entire season arc is like every single ship in it ends up going back to the beginning of time. They all blow up.
Yeah. Although all you need is a big dog creature to pull the switch back to prevent all this from happening.
Yeah. He's quite Carvanista from Flux.
Oh right? Yeah, that's right.
There's the Garm is yeah, maybe.
Or distant cousin, the way the Naimon and that hotel creature were
kind of cousins.
Yeah,
the Minotaur. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
But they didn't, for some reason they didn't put a Terminus reference in Flux. I wonder why.
So is this dealt with? Is the breakup of the TARDIS ever dealt with again? Because it's such an interesting idea that the TARDIS starts breaking up in this. Is it the next chronologically? The next story is Enlightenment. Do you remember if they deal with it in Enlightenment?
Not really. It's kind of forgotten about, and again, it's forgotten about here even because it's like the Doctor. I mean, it's sort of the TARDIS starts to break up, but then it sort of magically stops. I don't think the Doctor really even does anything other than throwing the chair, because it immediately sort of goes into the ship. So it's like, wait, was the TARDIS breaking up or not? And then he goes back and apparently like doesn't ever question, or maybe he finds that the space-time element's out of whack and he just figures, oh, it just happens. Like my warranty ran out, like nobody did anything. So that's never really dealt with. Although I think, as I recall in Enlightenment, sort of there were other issues with the TARDIS, and it has nothing to do with this though. Things just blow up.
Well, so maybe this is one of our first answers to our regular segment of where is the Clara Splinter, and the answer that she has wandered onto the TARDIS from the Terminus ship.
She's a Lazar. She's a Lazar.
Yeah, she's a Lazar, so people don't pay attention to her. She's get in anywhere and fix any plot hole, and she can wander onto the TARDIS and make sure that it's the process is reversed, and that Turlough hasn't actually done any permanent damage.
Right. She puts the space-time element right back where it should be.
Exactly.
Nice.
She's just
good job.
Clean up crew, and she has space to do that, right? Because Turlough is, thanks to the Black Guardians punishment regimen, the Turlough is knocked out on the floor at some point on the TARDIS at the end.
Also sealed in the crawl space for like 2 episodes, so that's a good gap. Because she'd have to avoid sterilization. Exactly. That's one thing I forgot in the TLDW, among other things, sterilization of the ship, which is just like
sterilization. Dry ice is basically what sterilization is.
Some random smoke here and there. Not a very good sterilization procedure as sterilization procedures go.
Which does lead, every time this smoke comes in, it leads this fabulous cough acting, which is, a lot of actors going, as if we didn't know what smoke inhalation did.
Totally. Well, if you want something sterilized, remember, call Nomad.
Yes, and if you don't want to be sterilized, take Hydromel.
That's all it takes. Right. A little bit of green water. You're fine.
Yes.
So we talked about the evil plot succeeding.
Yes. The Black Guardian, I guess, accidentally blows up the universe. That would be success.
Success for someone. So why?
It would be success for Davros, because no living creatures left.
He would. Anyway, a big poster of the Black Guardian on his bedroom wall, I'm sure. So we never really talked about why did the randomizer bring us here, though? I think we talked a little about it in the pre-show, but do we?
Well, I think the randomizer is definitely interested in the TARDIS. And
That's
in the chameleon circuit aspect of the TARDIS, which is an evidence here, we were just at Attack of the Cybermen, which is, shows us the TARDIS actually changing for the first and only time. And
right.
And here we have the only, then Genesis of the Daleks, we have the only old Who that doesn't feature the TARDIS at all. Now we're fully back in the TARDIS, the full episode in the TARDIS, but we don't see the exterior. The randomizer likes playing around with the TARDIS.
It's definitely like quirky TARDIS episodes. Yeah. Even State of Decay. I mean, it was E-Space, right? And there was a little bit of short hopping going on.
Yes. Yeah, there was short hop usage of the TARDIS, which I'm also enjoying. There's the giant CVS receipt coming out of the TARDIS console. Can't forget that. But also, we've been investigating the round things, the roundels, as they are known in the old series, because we had the Doctor fixing the chameleon circuit with a roundel. Here we open with Turlough sabotaging a roundel in a random corridor before Tegan comes along and goes, "I've got my eye on you." Always watching, Turlough.
Did they ever pop the roundels before Nathan Turner? Like, did Nathan Turner basically decide, you know what, we're going to find what's behind these things? Because he did it a lot.
He did.
Like Attack of the Cybermen.
There were others.
Yeah,
I think wasn't there one in? There's something in Earthshock, maybe.
I think it was maybe, but I think there was one in Castrovalva where he actually finds like some medicine or something behind one of them, like it's a freaking medicine cabinet. And it's like, oh, these roundels, they all have like little surprises behind them. And one has the chameleon circuit and one has the space-time element or whatever. And this is, like it's a place. It's not just decor. There's stuff here.
Yeah, it really, you could use it for a quiz show. Let's find out what's behind door number 7. Roundel number 7 has a trip to Terminus. All right.
I love it. Yeah, quirky TARDIS through line. I think that's better than mine. The only thing I thought of was more just commentary. We went to basically the highest of the high of the classic series with Genesis of Daleks. It's definitely, on a lot of top 10, top 5 lists, to Terminus, which I might say, Chris, this might be the worst one we've done.
It is. It's one of those that you just kind of you feel so bad in your heart for the show.
I really feel bad because I love Davison. I actually really think Turlough's interesting. Like I said about Tegan, I think she's a great companion. You can't say bad things about Nyssa. She's great. And I want these people to have good adventures together. But instead, we get Terminus, which is a mess, as we've just discussed. And also 2 of them are completely sidelined.
Yeah.
It's just, it's not well served. This script does not serve anyone well, least of all the regulars. And I don't think it's a good example of good Doctor Who. Sorry, Terminus lover.
Yeah, Davison. Yeah, all 3 of you. Davison is also, he still knocks every line out of the park. We still get a sense of his Doctor through the really seriously crappy dialogue. He's trying so hard, and you feel so bad for him with this. So ill-served. I mean, we've argued a lot about Colin Baker was ill-served. I think Davison was, for a lot of his tenure, ill-served too, in terms of his ambition for what his Doctor
Colin
could be.
Baker did not have a vegetable to save him in certain scenes, because you could always just look at that celery and like, oh, Doctor.
The so celery is, yes, it reminds me that when we started our random journey with Planet of Fire, we thought we were going to have a segment called Celery Watch. This is a next opportunity to look at the celery.
Yeah, this is pretty textbook celery.
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to protect against? Wasn't there some explanation of the celery was supposed to note radiation poisoning or something? Radiation.
I think it was gas. There was like some gas. Some spectrum. I think that was a certain gas was present. That's what it would detect.
Shouldn't it wilt here with all the presence of either radiation or sterilization gas on the ship?
Or just really poor dialogue.
It wilts when the dialogue's really bad.
Strengthen the celery. That's why it looks so good here. It absorbs the plot contrivances and just starts to bloom, get more nutritious.
Oh my goodness! Oh, Celery Watch. All right, so we've said where Clara is. Is there any other place to put Clara that desperately needs a plot hole filling?
Well, other than I only thing I can figure is she is a Lazar disguised as a Lazar, and in addition to maybe fixing the TARDIS, that she seals. She's the one who pounds on the grate to seal Tegan and Turlough down below, trying to
Protecting
shield
them.
them from the horribleness of this episode, trying to just basically keep them out of it. And like, guys, you want nothing to do with Terminus and the big dog over there and these guys in the bone armor because. Guys,
you don't want no part of this. No. All right. So yeah, she's helping protect and preserve the two remaining companions, knowing that Nyssa is about to leave to become a healthcare worker. Yeah, so I guess it's just the question of if this is a Dalek or an Ogron on our rating system, or a Viscount Banger, and it is definitely an Ogron.
Oh my god, it's like the drunk, terrible, like low-ranking Ogron who couldn't even make sergeant in the Ogron Corps. It's this is not a good Ogron. Yeah, he's
okay,
scouring Ogron.
So let's not. Let's hasten onwards in our journey.
Let's
get back into the TARDIS. Terminate Terminus.
Commentary on Terminus. It is over, folks. We've reached the end.
Let us open the TARDIS door that is briefly in Nyssa's room and has the Grateful Dead logo on it. Step back into the TARDIS, walk up to our randomizer, and see where we're going next. So,
indeed.
Pete, how many components does the randomizer have?
The randomizer is composed, which I'm using the wrong word, is composed of two components. One is the codex, which I have open in front of me here, and you can check it out by following the link in our show notes. It is a spreadsheet of all the episodes, every single one of Doctor Who, and we have just added the one that is being broadcast right now as we are wrapping this up, number 300, Legend of the Sea Devil. So it is 1 through 300. And to find out which one we're going to, Chris, what do we look to find that random number?
Well, first of all, let's just say there's a 1 in 300 chance the randomizer will actually tell us to watch the show that's screening right now. I'm very excited about that. But what we use for the executor element of the randomizer is random.org, because it uses atmospheric noise to create a true random number instead of just going down a list of numbers in an algorithm like a computer usually does, like a dummy. And that is why we use it. We feel that the randomizer is alive. It is talking to us. It is sending us on side quests like the Time Lords, and often involving Time Lords, and definitely has certain patterns that we are going to explore further. So, Pete, do you want to issue a challenge to the randomizer? I've just challenged it to take us to the very latest episode.
Yeah, that's true. I would say I'm going to challenge it to take us to the very first episode.
So the Big Bang of Doctor Who, on Earthly Child.
Exactly. Yeah. Come on, randomizer. You can do it. It's either 1 or 300.
Right. Yeah. You're staking all your money on 1. I'm staking all on 300. It's gonna fall somewhere in between. I think that's a pretty safe bet. It will be. Neither of us will be satisfied here. All right. You want to give me a countdown?
I'll give you a countdown. It's in 4, 3, 2, 1.
Could I have a lemonade?
275.
Ooh, we are in New Who, deep into New Who.
Yep.
We're at the Eaters of Light. Capaldi again.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's my reaction to the Eaters of Light. It's the Roman era one, right?
I think so. Yeah. Honestly, like you're getting me like this late Capaldi. This is right before the big finale of season 10. I gotta say, I don't really remember this one. I'm sure it'll come to me.
It's pretty forgettable.
Yeah, there was the thing with the Ice Warriors, and then there was one after that. And I guess that was this one.
Right, there was the one that's set on Mars, and then there's this one.
Yeah.
This is what happens, folks, with the randomizer. It just sort of throws us anywhere. I mean, whereas we would have chosen to go to 276, right? The Dr. Falls,
which has come up a lot, mostly because I like to talk about Cybermen and how their fundamentals have changed over the years.
That would have been a great one.
Yeah.
a great one for the randomized Center 6. We could have talked about having gone to the 10th planet. We could have talked about Attack of the Cybermen, the whole Telos Mondas thing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, the randomizer wants to be random.
Wants us to dine on some light.
We eat some light. I think, you know what it is? The randomizer heard me talking about my concern that it was burning through really good episodes too fast. Really good stories. And we did that whole mini episode on it. The randomizer's like, right, okay, you want some filler? Let's hit you with some premium filler.
You didn't know you were challenging it. You did, though.
Yeah, I did.
Delivering.
We have to be careful about what we say.
Yeah, we do. We'll say it again and keep saying it next week when we come back and to talk about the Eaters of Light. Guys, this has been Pull to Open. Thank you so much for listening. We're a podcast. If you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, please do. We are available on all your fine services. You want your Stitcher, you want your Amazon Music, your Spotify, your Google Podcasts. We got it all for you. Just go ahead and please subscribe. And while you're there, leave a review. They really do help the podcast reach more ears. The more ears we listen to, the more reviews you get, and the quicker we're going to find someone to get that prize. Trust me, it's going to be awesome.
Oh my God, I can't wait to ask another question about the prize in the next episode. Looking forward to that. You should be looking forward to it too.
Look forward to it. Also look forward to our posts on TikTok. We're very active on TikTok, posting clips of the show. Feel free to follow us there at Pull to Open, all one word, or go over to Instagram and Twitter, where we are at Pull to Open 63. Lots of stuff going on there too. And hey, don't forget, we're also on YouTube. You can watch us as you listen to us if you desire. We're on YouTube. Just search for Pull to Open and Doctor Who, and you will find us.
I feel safe to say we are going to own Terminus TikTok.
Terminus TikTok, look out.
Terminus TikTok. It's us. We own it. Forget about it.
We own it.
Don't even try.
It explodes, causing another chain reaction. Okay, I already did that one, but you know what I mean. Guys,
turns out that's how TikTok was created. Yes. It has been fun. All right.
We'll see you next time for Eaters of Light. Take care.
Eat some light. Bye, guys.